All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a pretty comprehensive FIFA training course, and, well, we're boiling it down into a super simple, highly actionable playbook on leadership communication. If you're a technical leader, or even if you just aspire to be one someday, you probably already know your stuff when it comes to the technical side of the game. But as you climb the ranks, the rules of the game actually change. Success becomes a whole lot less about what you know and almost entirely about how you communicate it. Let's set the stakes here with a brilliant quote from FIFA's Marianne Cornejo. She notes, "Nowadays, leadership demands more than expertise. It requires an ability to connect, inspire, and influence." And honestly, that really hits the nail on the head. Knowing your craft inside and out, it's just not enough anymore if you can't connect with the people around you. We're operating in this fast-moving, incredibly global environment now. Your technical brilliance is literally trapped if you don't have the key to unlock it for others. And that key, for sure, is effective communication. So here is our quick roadmap for this explainer. 1. The art of positive influence. 2. More than just talking. 3. Knowing your diverse audience. 4. Observation as a superpower. And 5. Your practical leadership toolkit. Let's get to it. Starting things off with Section 1, the art of positive influence. Marianne Cornejo makes another great point here. She says positive influencing is firstly all about identifying the purpose behind what we're intending to do and why. Basically, every single leadership decision you make, every new strategy you roll out, every piece of feedback you give, it has to start with understanding why it matters. And then you have to successfully connect that why to the community or the team you're serving. Because if people don't understand the purpose, they simply aren't going to follow the plan. So ask yourself, when the pressure is really on, what's your go-to style? Are you actually inspiring your team, or are you kind of just micromanaging them into a little box? Controlling relies strictly on authority, right? It's directing people without ever bothering to explain the why. But true leaders, the ones who actually leave a lasting impact, they inspire. They connect people to a shared purpose and motivate through a really clear vision. You want to foster an environment where your team grows because they genuinely believe in the vision, not just because you told them what to do. All right, moving right along to Section 2. More than just talking. You know, a lot of people think communication is literally just speaking out loud. But actually, it's this elegant three-part continuous engine. Step 1 is to observe. You've got to pay attention to the atmosphere and the body language in the room before you even open your mouth. Step 2 is listen. You have to hear what's being said, and honestly, just as importantly, what isn't being said. And finally, Step 3 is adapt. That means tailoring your message based on those first 2 steps so it actually lands the way you intended. Which brings us perfectly to active listening. I absolutely love this definition, mainly because it highlights a trap so many of us fall into. Active listening means actually understanding emotions, picking up on those unspoken concerns, and building deep trust. It is not just politely waiting for the other person to stop talking so you can jump in and make your next point. The true measure of effective communication isn't how flawlessly you delivered your speech. It's how well your audience actually understood the message. And you just can't know that if you aren't actively listening.
Okay, Section 3, knowing your diverse audience.
Now, this concept right here exposes a massive blind spot for a lot of leaders. Look at this list of stakeholders. On any given day, a technical leader might be chatting with the federation president, then jumping to grassroots coaches, then fielding questions from a demanding sponsor, and finally dealing with parents. You simply cannot speak to a room full of energetic 10-year-old players the exact same way you speak to an executive committee. Well, actually, scratch that. Maybe you can, but you definitely shouldn't. You have to constantly adjust your tone, your vocabulary, and your level of technical detail depending on who is standing right in front of you. So how exactly do you pull that off? Well, the secret to adapting your message boils down to 3 simple steps. First, know who they are. What actually makes them tick? What are their specific goals? Second, adjust your tone. Do they need a super formal presentation or just a laid-back conversational chat? And third, this one is crucial, ask for feedback. Remember, communication is a two-way street. Always ask questions to make absolutely sure your message landed the exact way you wanted to.
Next up, Section 4, observation as a superpower.
Picture this. You're leading a big coaching workshop or a major technical meeting. The formal session pauses for a coffee break. Now, most leaders totally switch off here. But this is exactly when you need to stay switched on. Pose these questions to yourself. How do the groups naturally leave the room?
Who is the very first person to talk in a small huddle? Is there some unspoken hierarchy playing out? Are there language barriers making some people a bit quieter than others? Because when you actually pay attention to these subtle, everyday moments, you are gathering an absolute treasure trove of data. You start to easily identify the real team hierarchy and the informal leaders, the folks who don't necessarily have a big fancy title, but everyone else looks to them for approval anyway. You spot relationship dynamics, cultural behaviors, confidence levels. Taking just a little bit of time to observe all this before you step in helps you build way stronger connections and ultimately helps you make significantly better leadership decisions.
And finally, Section 5, your practical leadership toolkit.
Let's look at a real-world scenario. Say you're pitching a brand new football philosophy. An ineffective approach? Delivering this super dense, jargon-heavy, highly technical presentation to parents or federation executives who honestly just want the big picture, they are going to tune you out immediately. The effective approach is simplifying the why. You adapt your delivery based entirely on what that specific audience needs to feel confident in your vision. One approach completely fails to connect, while the other, it builds immediate credibility, trust, and real collaboration. So to put all this into practice, you've got to keep these core principles in your back pocket. Lead with a clear purpose. Always, always observe a room before you speak. Listen to actually understand the other person, not just to formulate your reply. Adapt your tone to whoever is in front of you. Ask for feedback to make sure everyone is on the same page. And above all else, inspire rather than instruct. I want to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with this really powerful reflection prompt. In your own leadership role, how can you adapt your communication style to better influence and connect with your various audiences? Because at the end of the day, great leaders aren't just remembered for what they knew. They're remembered for how they made people feel, how they built trust, and how they united totally diverse groups behind one common vision. Keep working on those communication skills, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.